that we're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I sat on the couch, the dim glow of the living room lamp flickering against the glass of my whiskey tumbler. I didn't even care for the taste, but the burn kept me grounded. Stacy was getting ready upstairs, her reflection in the hallway mirror catching my eye as she applied her lipstick. Her outfit was too tight, too revealing. A dress she hadn't worn for me in years. "Don't wait up tonight, babe," she called out, her voice dripping with the false nonchalance that had become her trademark. I clenched my jaw, the ice cubes in my glass clinking as I tightened my grip. "You mean that boss of yours?" I asked, my tone deceptively calm. She stilled for a fraction of a second before regaining her composure, pretending my words didn't faze her. "Yeah, so what? What are you going to do about it?" She turned to face me, a defiant smirk playing on her lips, as if daring me to challenge her. I let out a breath, controlled but heavy. "We both know what's really going on, Stacy. You don't even bother to hide it anymore." Her smirk faltered, replaced by irritation. "Don't start, Jack. It's just a night out. I want to have some fun. Something you clearly forgot how to do." The audacity. My grip on the glass tightened. "Fun? Is that what you call it?" I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "You're throwing away our marriage for a fling?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Please, don't act like this marriage was ever special. I'm done pretending." I stood, my chest rising and falling with the anger I tried to suppress. "Stacy, don't do this. We can fix things. If you just talk to me." She jerked her arm away from my touch, her eyes hardening. "Talk? There's nothing to talk about. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think, Jack." She reached for her purse, stepping toward the door. "Now move, loser." The words hit like a sucker punch to the gut. She slammed the door behind her, the silence that followed ringing louder than any argument we had ever had. My body tensed, my nails digging into my palms. I turned toward the coffee table, my fingers hovering over my phone before finally picking it up. My thumb swiped across the screen, navigating to a hidden folder labeled Evidence. Weeks of pictures, text messages, videos, every sordid, gut-wrenching detail of her betrayal. I had tried to ignore it, tried to pretend it didn't matter. But tonight, something shifted. Confrontation wouldn't be enough. No, Stacy had made her choice. It was time she faced the consequences, and I was going to make sure she regretted every single one of them. Stacy threw her head back, laughter spilling from her lips as Damien poured her another drink. The music pulsed around them, drowning out the guilt that threatened to creep in. "You're too good for that loser husband of yours," Damien murmured into her ear, his fingers trailing up her thigh under the bar table. She shivered, reveling in the attention. Jack had once made her feel this way, alive, wanted, but those days were gone. "You're right," she purred, her lips brushing Damien's ear. "It's about time I started thinking about what I really want." He grinned, his gaze dark with intent. "And what do you want, Stacy?" She leaned in, her breath teasing his skin. "To have fun." Damien didn't need any more encouragement. He pulled her closer, claiming her lips in a deep, possessive kiss. The bar around them faded into the background. The only thing that mattered was the rush, the thrill of stepping into the forbidden. Minutes later, they stumbled into his sleek apartment, clothes discarded before the door even shut behind them. Stacy gasped as Damien's hands roamed her body, a sharp contrast to Jack's predictable touch. This was what she needed: passion, excitement. But as Damien's lips trailed lower, a thought crept in her mind. Jack knew. And yet, for some reason, that only made it more exhilarating. The moment it was over, the thrill faded. Stacy lay beside Damien, staring at the ceiling, the weight of her actions finally settling in. "I should go," she murmured, untangling herself from his embrace. Damien frowned. "Why? Stay." She hesitated. A part of her wanted to. A part of her wanted to forget Jack, to pretend her marriage had already crumbled beyond repair. But another part of her knew she had crossed a line she couldn't undo. "I can't," she whispered, slipping out of bed. The cab ride home was eerily quiet. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse, a sinking feeling settling in her gut. When she stepped into the house, the air was thick with something off. She called Jack's name, But the house was silent. Too silent. Her eyes swept across the living room, and that's when she saw it. The rugs. Gone. The designer bags. Gone. The paintings. Gone. Her heart pounded as she stepped forward, her gaze landing on the coffee table. A torn-up marriage certificate lay beside a shattered wedding ring. And next to them, a note. The handwriting was unmistakably Jack's, jagged and filled with rage. You lost everything in one night. Tomorrow, your life, and his, will change forever. A chill ran down her spine. The walls of her life were caving in. And Jack had just declared war. Stacy stood frozen in the middle of the living room, her fingers trembling as they clutched the ominous note Jack had left behind. Her heart pounded, her mind racing through the implications of those words. Tomorrow, your life, and his, will change forever. The house felt hollow, stripped of everything that once made it theirs. The weight of her actions pressed down on her chest, suffocating her. She had expected Jack to be angry, maybe even to demand a divorce. But this was something else. She scrambled toward the stairs, her breath hitching as she rushed into their bedroom. Jack's side of the closet was empty. His drawers? Cleared out. It was as if he had never lived here, as if he had vanished overnight. Panic clawed at her throat. She snatched her phone from the nightstand, her fingers fumbling as she dialed Jack's number. The call went straight to voicemail. She tried again, and again. Nothing. Stacy cursed under her breath. Where was he? And what the hell did he mean by tomorrow? She paced the room, her pulse erratic. She had underestimated Jack. He was always the rational one, the calm and level-headed husband she had taken for granted. But tonight, for the first time, she realized she had no idea what he was capable of when pushed too far. A notification flashed across her phone screen. Message from Damien. Miss me already? Her stomach twisted. She knew she needed to focus on Jack, but another thought crossed her mind. Had Jack found out about Damien's role in this? If he had, then Damien was in danger too. And something told her that Jack wasn't the type to take betrayal lightly. Not anymore. Damien exhaled, stretching his arms as he leaned back in his office chair. The late-night glow of the city skyline bathed his sleek office in a golden hue. Tonight had been good. More than good. Stacy had been just as wild as he had imagined. Eager, desperate for something new. She had practically thrown herself at him. Pathetic. He smirked as he scrolled through the messages on his phone, still reveling in his victory. He had taken another man's wife without consequence. Jack was nothing but a fool. Or so he thought. A knock on his office door pulled his attention away. Come in, he called, expecting one of his employees. Instead, the door creaked open slowly. Too slowly. Damien frowned, the hairs on his neck standing on end as he turned in his chair. Jack stepped inside. But this wasn't the Jack he had expected. This wasn't the docile, pathetic husband Damien had imagined would roll over and cry. No, this Jack was calm, calculating, and that was far more terrifying. Jack, Damien said, his voice dripping with feigned politeness. Didn't expect to see you here. Late night, huh? Jack stepped forward, hands in his pockets. His expression unreadable. I was just in the neighborhood, Jack said smoothly. Figured we should talk. Damien chuckled, leaning back in his chair. About what? Jack tilted his head, his lips curling into a slow, deliberate smirk. About what happens to men who take what doesn't belong to them. Damien's smirk faltered. Something about the way Jack said it, the eerie calm in his voice, sent a sliver of unease down his spine. Jack reached into his pocket, pulling out a small black USB drive, and placed it on Damien's desk. Go ahead, Jack said, nodding toward the drive. Damien hesitated before picking it up. With cautious hands, he plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered, and then Damien's world shattered. The files opened, footage from hidden cameras. Every intimate moment, every stolen kiss, every betrayal documented. And it didn't stop there. The next folder contained Damien's darkest secrets. Embezzlement, workplace harassment, fraud. Jack had been watching, recording, and now he owned him. Damien's hands shook as he turned back to Jack. What the hell is this? Jack leaned in, his voice a deadly whisper. This is the beginning of your downfall. Jack took his time watching Damien squirm, relishing the moment. You see, Jack continued, his voice smooth. I knew you were sleeping with my wife. I knew the moment it started. But instead of reacting like a fool, I took my time. Damien swallowed hard, his confidence crumbling. I let you believe you were untouchable, Jack said, standing upright. I let you think you could take what was mine without consequences. But I'm not the kind of man who lets things slide. Damien scoffed, though his voice wavered. So what? You're gonna expose me? Ruin my career? Jack chuckled darkly. Oh, Damien, I'm gonna do much more than that. He leaned forward, his next words dripping with menace. I'm going to dismantle your life piece by piece. Damien's bravado shattered. Jack straightened, turning toward the door. You have 24 hours to resign from your position. Publicly. Otherwise, well, he gestured toward the USB. I'm sure your investors would love to know how their money has been mismanaged. Damien jumped to his feet. You can't do this. Jack shot him a glare, so cold it sent a chill down Damien's spine. I already have. And with that, Jack walked out, leaving Damien standing in the wreckage of his soon-to-be-destroyed career. But this was just the first step. Jack wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Damien sat in stunned silence, his fingers trembling as he hovered over the laptop. The evidence Jack had left him was a noose around his neck, tightening with every passing second. He could fight back, try to bury it. But deep down, he knew Jack wasn't bluffing. The way he had spoken, the confidence, the control, Jack had played him like a puppet. A sickening realization twisted in his gut. Jack had always known. He had let Damien walk straight into the trap, let him get comfortable, and now he was ripping the ground from under him. Damien grabbed his phone, dialing his lawyer. I need to talk to you. Now. The response was immediate. We need to schedule in. No, you don't understand, Damien snapped, wiping the sweat from his brow. I need a way out. Now. The silence on the other end lasted too long. I'll see what I can do, his lawyer finally said. Damien ended the call, his pulse hammering. There had to be a way to turn this around. But Jack wasn't done with him. Not even close. Stacy woke to the blaring of her phone. Her head throbbed, her stomach twisted, and for a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality slammed into her. She was alone. Jack was gone. Her entire world was crumbling. With shaking hands, she reached for her phone. Unknown number calling. Frowning, she answered. Hello. A deep voice filled her ear. Jack, did you sleep well? His tone was disturbingly calm. Stacy sat upright, her throat dry. Jack, where are you? We need to. No, he interrupted, his voice as sharp as a knife. We don't need to do anything. You made your choices, Stacy. And now, you live with them. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Jack, please, I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. Jack laughed softly, but there was no warmth in it. Fix it, he echoed. Like how you fixed our marriage? She swallowed hard, gripping the blanket around her. I was wrong. I let things get out of control, but I never stopped loving you. Stop. His voice turned deadly quiet. You don't get to lie to me anymore. I'm done playing the fool. Her lips trembled. Then, what do you want? A pause. Then Jack's voice dropped to a whisper. I want you to suffer. Stacy's heart nearly stopped. Before she could respond, the call ended. A deep dread settled in her bones. Jack wasn't just walking away. He was out for blood, and she had no idea how far he would go. The next morning, Stacy's phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages, notifications, calls. And when she checked, her stomach dropped. Her name was everywhere. Someone had leaked every single affair, every dirty message, every intimate detail, to the entire city. Social media was exploding with it. Her coworkers, her family, her friends, they all knew. And at the bottom of the leak was a single anonymous signature. Actions have consequences. Jack. Stacy clutched her phone, her breath shallow. This was only the beginning. Damien burst into his office, his hands shaking. Give me PR, give me legal, give me everyone, he barked at his assistant. But as he stormed toward his desk, a figure blocked his way. Jack, dressed in a tailored suit, looking as composed as ever. Jack held up a folder. Going somewhere? Jack asked, his smirk chilling. Damien's heart pounded. You son of a... Jack held up a hand. You're finished, Jack said simply. Your resignation will be on my desk by noon. Damien's lips curled into a sneer. You think I'll go down that easy? Jack tilted his head. You won't have a choice. With that, he placed the folder down. Damien snatched it up and flipped through it, and his blood ran cold. Because it wasn't just the affair. It was fraudulent deals. Stolen company funds. Jack had uncovered everything. I own your fate, Jack whispered. Now you either walk away quietly, or I burn everything you've built to the ground. Damien felt his world collapse. Jack had won, and there was nothing he could do about it. Stacy rushed to her bank, trying to withdraw money. The teller gave her a sympathetic smile. I'm sorry, ma'am. Your accounts have been frozen. Stacy's breath caught. What? That's not possible. She checked her balance on her phone. $0. Her entire fortune was gone. Her jewelry? Missing. Her designer bags? Gone. Jack had cleaned her out. A deep panic clawed at her throat. She had nothing, and the only man who ever truly loved her was now her worst enemy. Days later, Stacy sat in a cheap motel, staring at the ceiling. Jack had taken everything. Her reputation, her money, her dignity. And now, as she clutched her phone, she saw something that shattered her completely. A photo of Jack, with another woman, laughing, happy. Stacy's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. She had destroyed everything, and now, she had to live with the knowledge that Jack had truly moved on. For the first time, tears fell freely from her eyes. This wasn't revenge. This was obliteration. Jack hadn't just punished her. He had erased her. The entire city was talking about it. Not just the affair. Not just Damien's downfall. Stacy had become a public disgrace. Every detail had been leaked. Her texts, her meetings at hotels, the way she had laughed at Jack behind his back. She couldn't go anywhere without people staring, whispering. She had lost her job. Her friends had abandoned her. Even her own family refused to pick up her calls. Her mother's last text had shattered her completely. We raised you better than this. Don't call us again. Stacy sat in her cheap motel room, her phone silent, her life in ruins. And then, her screen lit up. A message from Jack. Enjoying your new life? A sob tore from her throat. This wasn't just revenge. Jack had erased her existence, and she was starting to break. Damien fought back. Or at least he tried to. He hired lawyers. He tried burying the evidence. But Jack had anticipated everything. The board members at his company voted him out overnight. His assets were frozen. The IRS was investigating him. And his wife? She had taken everything and filed for divorce, leaving him penniless. Damien sat alone in his now empty penthouse, a bottle of whiskey in his shaking hand. His phone vibrated. A message from Jack. Actions have consequences. Damien threw the bottle at the wall. He had lost everything, and Jack had won completely. Stacy was desperate. She had nothing left, no money, no home, no future. And so she did the only thing she could think of. She went to find Jack. She waited outside his new apartment for hours, shivering in the cold. Finally, the door opened. Jack stepped out, looking better than ever, stronger, happier, as if she had never existed. Beside him stood a beautiful woman. They laughed together, their hands brushing. Stacy felt physically sick. Jack had moved on. She stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. Jack! He turned, his gaze landing on her. There was no anger, no hatred, just indifference. And that hurt more than anything. What do you want, Stacy? His tone was cold. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please, I made a mistake. I was stupid. Jack sighed, as if he had already moved past this. You don't exist to me anymore, he said simply. Her knees buckled. Jack, please. I love you. He shook his head. No, you loved yourself. And now, you can live with the consequences. With that, he turned away from her. Stacy collapsed, sobbing. Jack didn't look back. She had destroyed him once. Now, he had made sure she would never recover. Jack had never wanted to become a cruel man, but betrayal had turned him into something else. Stacy and Damien had taken his trust, his love, his life, and used it like it meant nothing. Now they were nothing. Damien was jobless, ruined, and facing criminal charges. Stacy was alone, humiliated, abandoned by everyone. And Jack had moved on, stronger, smarter, and finally free. He had won completely. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Months later, Jack sat in a quiet cafe, enjoying his coffee. A newspaper lay open on the table. Former CEO Damian Carter sentenced for fraud. Faces 10 years in prison. Jack smirked, setting the paper aside. As for Stacy, she was nowhere to be found. Some rumors said she had left town. Others claimed she was living in shelters, begging for help. Jack didn't care. She was just another stranger now. And that was the best ending he could have ever given her. Jack picked up his coffee, the warm steam rising into the air. His new life had just begun, and this time, it was his.